Okay, we are being live streamed, so we in there. Okay.
Woo-wee.
We are
Thank you,
in
Lord.
there. We are in there.
Thank you, Lord. We made it.
We're live, so we're gonna give the people something to listen to while we settle in. Okay, you're in the right place. This is Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim, so you're in the right place. Go ahead, get your beverage. We got our beverages, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right, let's go.
She's unstoppable, optimistic ruler. Feminine energy. Yeah.
Are y'all feeling it? Can you hear it?
I never heard it before, but I like it.
Okay, listen.
The source, the yearning, the force, the passion, the hope, feminine glow. Fiery laughter, you can't ever grasp her. Endless flow of devotion. She's dancing. Hey, hey, hey. Feminine energy. Femininity. She's dancing. Hey, hey, hey. Feminine energy. Maybe the remedy. Consumed by the universe. Surrendering in ecstasy. Guided by her femininity. Her love is unshakable. We need more feminine energy. Femininity.
Y'all got it. You heard the song said, it said we need some more. We need some more feminine energy. Welcome back, you all. Last week, we were trying to figure out what is feminine energy, right? So we defined it. I'm going to do a review because you know there's a quiz at the end.
Okay.
You see who was listening and who was listening well. But last week, we had a time, didn't we?
Yes,
we had a time. We talked about feminine energy. We defined it. Look at all those notes. We described it. Okay, so you would know it when you saw it. You would know it if you have it. You would know it if you lost it.
That's right.
And so tonight, we're talking about how to shift it, balance it. Because what we did also talk about is the toxicity, right? A little bit of feminine energy and why it gets such a bad rap. I'm looking for some gentlemen to join us tonight. It was a young man. I call him young because I don't consider myself old, but that I went to grammar school with. And incidentally, his mother is one of my sheroes. She was my 8th grade teacher, one of my absolute favorite people on the planet. And she energy and why it gets such a bad rap. Don't you hate when you hear yourself? Gentlemen to join us tonight. It was I got the feedback. Man, I call him young. Volume. Adjust the volume. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kim. See, I need a tech person. I'm the host, the producer. I'm my tech. So give me about 6 months. I'm gonna start hiring people. Did you hear me just speak into the atmosphere?
You better go ahead.
Okay. Baby. I need some hope.
Baby.
I need some hope up in here. So you see, I'm trying to be my own tech person and caterer and
it's coming.
A bartender and all of that. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. So last week his post, I was bringing his idea, and he had a post up the other day about toxic femininity. And he was asking people to define it. And unfortunately, that's how most people relate to this topic. It's the toxic part of it, right? When women say, I'm fierce, I'm feminine, it's a negative connotation to it. And so I'm hoping that our conversation last week will begin to shift that narrative that it's all positive. That energy is not negative, it's what you do with it.
That part.
That part. And so that's what I added to his post is it's like toxic femininity is when women use, right, their femininity or the characteristics associated with their womanhood to manipulate the outcome of certain events or relationships. So they use it to acquire. Now,
Right.
that's not to say that you can't influence situations. You see where I'm going?
Right.
But that's a big difference in saying, I'm about to do X, Y, Z, which is what we were saying right before we went live. It's not about the doing, it's about the being. Okay, so I'm gonna press pause right there to acknowledge the people who have just come in the chat. So good evening, those of you who are joining us in the chat through YouTube, those of you who are joining us on Facebook, because there's nobody on FaceTime. Those of you who are joining us on Facebook, welcome. You're at Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim, and I have some special guests with me tonight. 2 of them were with me last week, and I'm gonna let them remind you who they are. But to my left, probably your right, is Angela Oyafumike, and I said it right because that's who I am. And then right under me or below me, okay, and that's only because of the way the screen is, because we all need to be right here next to each other.
Right.
But the wind beneath my wings right here is my sister Angelia McCrary Parker, Terry Parker's wife. So I had to I had to. It was right there.
Don't make me faint.
So Angie, remind the people who you are. And then Angelia reminded people who you are. And then I'm going to tell them about one of our guests who's missing. And then reintroduce myself. And then we're going to get into it. Hey, Sherry Berry in the chat. Okay, go ahead, Queen Mother Sister. Tell the people, remind them who you are.
I am Angela Oyafumike. I am an ordained non-denominational minister, as well as an Onifa in the Ifa tradition. Trained clergy, seminary trained, grew up or taught by the incomparable
Come on,
Dr.
Reverend
Aya
Dr.
Wright, Jr., period.
Period. The one and the only.
The one and only.
And happy to say, that he is probably, in fact, the only pastor I've ever had. I grew up in the church, but he's the only pastor I've ever had.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's a mouthful.
but yeah, that's who I am. So nice to be here again. Glad to be with my sisters.
I'm glad you're here. Angelia, tell the people who you are.
Okay, I'm Angelia. Excuse my sound. I'm a little nasal today. I'm
Not long.
Angelia McCrary Parker, Terry Parker's wife.
Hey, Terry Parker.
The reason I say that is because I waited till 50 to get married. And I waited because I needed the right man, and God sent them to me at 50. So
Well,
I thank God for him, and I put his name out there all the time.
all the
That's my
time.
heart, and I love him. And he lifts me up. Like today, he was like, baby, you sure you want to do this? Because you're not feeling too good. But I told him I can do it. He was like, okay. But if you need me, call me. He's
Oh,
all
that's the shadow we see. He down there rubbing your feet while you talk to us.
girl.
You
He
see
was
the
in here
shadow?
early, and I had to tell him, okay, I got to do the TV. Now get off me. But no, I'm a member of Trinity. I've been there since I was 18. I am now 59 and proud of it. And I
It's been
thank
that
God.
long.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
18 when I joined Trinity. I
Wow.
was 18. And now I'm 59, and God has been good. God has been good, and he's been keeping me. And I'm a child of the Most High God, and I'm grateful to be here. And thank you, Kim, for allowing me to be here yet again.
I am glad you're here. I just didn't realize it's been that long.
Yeah,
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah.
All this Trinity energy up in here.
Yes.
And
yeah,
feminine energy. So
Yeah.
thank you. So thank you both for coming to hang out with me again on
yeah,
a Friday night. As the preacher say, well, you could be anywhere. Okay.
that's right.
You chose to be here and hang out with me. And so those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Kim. I'm the host. This is kind of what I do on every Friday night.
The amazing Dr. Kim.
Oh, thank you. I'll receive it. The relationship renovator. So I'm helping you get it together or keep it together. That's what we do in here. Okay. So if you don't have a boo, I help you get your boo. And if you got a boo, keep your boo. How about that? That's what we do here. But tonight we're focused on the feminine energy. Hey, Lynette. good evening. And so if you're just tuning in, invite and share this link, because this is information and thought processes that not only the sister in need, but the brethren too. Because as we also uncovered last week, that we both sexes have both feminine and masculine energy. It's just a matter of the balance. That's why we're talking about the balance tonight.
Right.
And so again, neither is negative. So when when I've heard these conversations on social media, oh, these women in this masculine energy, yeah, we all have some. How do you wear it? And what do you do with it?
Right.
Likewise, men possess feminine energy, right? And we often have heard that terminology, is he in touch with his feminine side, right? And it's a positive. But brothers, some of y'all are out of balance too. Okay. So we don't need no hard hammering women, and we don't need no soft bros. Okay. So we need to talk about some balance tonight. That's why we're here. So go ahead and share this link, invite some people to join us in this conversation and pull up one. Now, the plan is always for us to be here an hour or so. Do you know how that works? Okay. So I'm gonna say this again, like they say in church. If you gotta go while we tearing at the altar, it's all right. I won't be offended. You can come back for the replay. Right. Because I understand it's Friday. Okay, so it might be date night for some, it might be laundry night for others. I don't know what you do on a Friday, but we're here. This is what we do. And so if you need to step out, step away, it's fine. The link will be here, but please invite somebody, because we need this we need some energy and synergy, and we need some company to have this conversation. Is it Rebecca Fitzgerald again this week, all the way from Philly? Come on, Rebecca. It's good to see you. Charlotte, Philadelphia, PA. All right. So what do you all remember from last week? What were your biggest takeaways? And Angelia has about 5 pages of notes. Okay. So biggest takeaways from last week when we talked about what is feminine energy. So defining it and what it looks like. We talked about some gentleness. I know we talked about some musical references. And look at this. I mean, these scholars, they pulling out the scrolls. I love it. But here's what's interesting though. She said, I is here. I see you, boo. Bring Joanne Hampton Taylor in here. Yeah, another Philadelphia person. Bring the rest of those Philadelphia sisters in here. So look, it's interesting that I got so much feedback last week. When I tell you, my inbox was popping when we got off live. And so many people referenced our conversation to a class. And I was like, that's not a class. Like, we were just talking. So I guess the teacher in me is just the teacher in me. You can't get away from it, right? I don't care what letters you have in front or behind. And like I said, you see, I have a bunch of learned women here. And let me stop here because I forgot to acknowledge that one of our sisters is not here with us this evening. So Regina Drake was with us last week, and she has had some health challenges this past week. So we want to send a shout out to Regina Drake, who was like I said, a part of our panel last week and a very valuable voice at the table. We miss you, girl, but I hope that you're using your time tonight to regenerate and restore and return back to 100% health. But I do want you to know that you are missed. So I hope at some point we'll see her in the chat and she'll do some contributions that way. So this week, what stood out for you? What do you remember as you went home or as we turned off the camera and you went, because there was a whole lot of, like I said, a whole lot of messages after the show last week, which I was glad to receive. So what do y'all remember? And then we're going to move forward for tonight.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Oh, okay. I'll go. Pull out my notes. We talked about feminine energy, the regular, quote unquote, regular definition of feminine energy is soft, nurturing, grounded, but don't mistake this for being a pushover. Soft on the outside, but strong on the inside, and exercises her boundaries. This strength comes from knowing who she is and what she wants and not being afraid to meet her shadows. Stillness, stillness, nighttime senses, vulnerable, wisdom, intensiveness.
Mhm.
Those were the regular kind of quote unquote regular definitions of what feminine energy is. And then we talked about the different traits, of the feminine energy, being easily able to calm down, good at taking care of themselves and loving themselves, able to find creative inspiration, able to empathize, able to make judgments outside of the realm of rationality, prioritize feelings, and they, for some reason, that was seen as a weakness. I don't understand what that was seen, why it was seen as weakness.
And that's why I was going to pause right there. If you listen to those traits that you just mentioned, all of those characteristics are important to have in leadership. Yet we consistently hear, you don't want to work for a female boss. You want to work for one boss because they all in their feelings. They can't lead. However, it is those also called soft skills, which I hate that moniker, but those soft skills that also, again, make a good leader, whether you're a man, right? Or whether you're a woman. So watch this twice today. And this is a teachable moment. Thank you, God, for the tweet from heaven. Twice today, I was called aside to advise two leaders in the district where I work as a consultant. Principal of one building, he was like, look, I need Dr. Kim, I just want to run this past you because here's the data that I have, but here's the decisions I need to make about a certain individual. I need your take on it because I know you're good at reading people. Really, sir? So I pull up a chair and have a conversation with him. As soon as I walk away from the table, the phone is ringing. Ring-a-ding-ding. Ring-a-ding-ding. It's she's a director, right, over one aspect of one of the programs in the district. And she says, I need to talk to the Dr. Kim that knows people. And I said, hold on, let me see if she's here. Okay. So she wanted me, no, I don't need your curriculum and instruction hat. I don't need your management hat. I need your reading people hat. So what do you notice about others? How do you care about others? Making decisions, judgments, all of those things that you said right there. Just today, I was called to task to invoke and activate my what? Feminine energy. Help leadership. So there is no part of being a punk in using or walking in your feminine energy. And watch this. It's recognized by how Boo carries herself.
That's right.
I don't wear a feminine energy t-shirt to work.
That's right.
I don't have
how you carry yourself.
Not on my phone. It is red. It emanates.
It's your essence.
That's the word you said last week. I heard it come up several times, and I'm glad you brought it up there. Absolutely. Just like the other post I said when I was talking about last week, the little kids, mama, calling me mama. She's a nurturer. I don't know her name, but something about her says caring. Now this week, this one hurt my heart a little bit. I was leaving one of the programs, and the little boy said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to another school." I said, "But I'll see you next time." And he said, "Okay, bye-bye, grandma." I said, "Whoa, at the other school I was mama. I came to this school now, grandma." But it's all love, right?
It's all. I was just going to say that because he recognized the love. The love that he gets comes from his grandma. So he recognized that same love energy coming from you, and he compared it to his grandma, and that's why he called you grandma, because that's what he associates it with.
I know, and the teacher was mortified, and I was like, "No, it's all good." I was like, "That's that love. I'll take it."
Right.
But then I did get in the car and check for my gray hairs, though I did, and so
that's all right. Gray hairs wisdom.
Okay, there you go. So I earned it at them. So,
Right hands with.
so we're good.
All right.
So-
It's all
exactly.
right.
So Queen Mother Sister, what do you remember? What stood out for you after we got off the camera last week? What was your biggest takeaway?
I think the biggest thing for me was, going back to that, knowing yourself and the importance of it, and defining yourself outside of just this 3D dimension.
Right.
The
Ooh,
importance of going deeper. I think, last week I mentioned about the importance of the you who dreams. Who is that person? The you who has visions. Who's that
Right.
person?
Right.
Define it for yourself, because your femininity isn't going, we're all walking and moving in feminine energy, but all of our energy is very different because we all carry it and wear it differently.
Yeah.
It's the difference between personality and character.
Yep.
And so we are all personable and have great personalities, but then our characters, how we manifest and do that piece, looks
Yeah.
very different. And
Yeah.
I think for me, that was what stood out. It was so much that stood out,
Right.
but pretty much how I continue to keep that ever in front of me, because it's just so important, as I evolve in my own femininity.
Right.
that's good. Did you feel? I felt the snaps.
Oh yeah.
I felt the oohs, and I would agree with you that that's important, not only in your own personal journey, but also the biggest challenge that I think all of us have because of all of these external messages that are thrown at us through the media, social as well as news, through societal norms, through our peer groups, of what it means to be a woman. And the age group that's represented here, I think I consider us to be a hybrid generation, because I think we were kind of caught in the middle of very traditional views of womanhood and what femininity looks like, and right on the cusp of a new view of what women look like. So we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
We're kind of in the middle. Our daughters being on that other side, and it's like, no, being a woman is whoever you define being a woman is, and it's okay. We didn't quite get that message until we were fully formed. So, so we had to kind of retrofit that. And so, like you're saying, and that's one of the points that I want to bring out later, is why reflection is so important. One thing that you said too, Angie, I was thinking as you were talking, is how, like I said, we try to define this for younger women and maybe even for our daughters. So what I meant, and so you all can't see this, but I have somebody in my studio audience. My favorite sailor is here. She's here from Virginia. Okay. The lovely Lindsay Taylor Gear. She waving to y'all. Hey, y'all. Hey. But I was thinking about this as you were talking. I remember dressing Leslie. She's somewhere else, but she's listening to this. I know she's gonna laugh. Hey, Leslie. So Leslie's my oldest daughter. So I remember dressing her when she was young, and my mother talked about how obsessive I was about dressing her. She's not a doll, Kim. She's actually, I was like, she's my doll. She's a living doll. And so layaway was very real in my life at the time. So I'd take one layaway out, put another layaway in. And I had so many clothes for this girl until I would be just changing her during the day just because well, you gotta hurry wear this before it doesn't fit, right? Or I give it to someone else. But watch this difference in children. So I would put these little fluffy outfits on Leslie, matching headband, matching earrings, matching socks, matching shoes. Girl couldn't even walk, matching shoes. Leslie would sit like an absolute doll as soon as you put these things on. I mean, she would just like almost strike the pose. She just would sit differently. It's like, wow. Isn't it so like she knows? Now, this little girl here in my studio audience, I put some of the same outfits, because you got the hand-me-downs.
Right.
But whether I put the same outfit on her or an equally feminine, girly outfit on her, she's like, are you for real? Like, I'm gonna get down and play. Girl, you got a tutu on. You got a little pleated skirt. I wish I could find that picture. You remember the picture I'm talking about? We're at Grandma Buford's house, and you had the little cheerleader. It was like a little cheerleader outfit on. It was so cute. Little turtleneck and the little pleated plaid skirt. And she was like, this is for the birds. I'm about to get down here on this floor and play with these clothes. And I'm just like, oh, these girls are not the same, But the great thing was, because of the generation that they came out, I was like, let her be. No, you're supposed to sit there, cross your legs. You got a skirt on. She was just like, I'm being the kind of girl I am.
Yeah.
Now you chose to put this skirt on me. I'm gonna be me. And we had to allow her to be her and let's be her. And that is a lot of times what was taken away from us.
Yep.
We were told, this is what being a girl looks like Angie was saying.
Yeah.
But to sit down and say, what do I say? How do I define myself? That's so much power in that. Okay, so much power in that. Now, I don't want to take us in a whole nother direction, because we could go there. But that's what resonated with me when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the takeaway last week is when they talked about music, because, I'm a music lover. And so when I found that reference to femininity being like music, and I'm trying to find it, that musically feminine is defined as ending on an accented beat or syllable. It's unstressed, so that it doesn't bear a stress or an accent. So again, we can't be contained into one direction, that this is what feminine is. We flow,
Right.
We adapt,
Right.
we bend, which takes me to those weather references, right? The weather is referred to in feminine ways, because of the changes that happens in the weather. And even though people say, the tornadoes is named after women too, right? And so even though they can be destructive or be considered destructive, they are forces of change.
Right.
The environment is changed through those weather events.
Yep.
The physical environment, as well as the cosmic environment, right? Both are changed. And so again, not looking at the negative, which is what people like to do.
Right.
And when women are powerful, is negative.
Right.
There may be some negative effects. Change is uncomfortable,
Yes.
but it's necessary.
Necessary. Yeah.
And so you can best believe both of those conversations that I had today, as soft and gentle as they were, oh baby, it's gonna be some hurricanes and some tornadoes running up through that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave
That's why barometric pressure and all of that and the weather is referred to as Mother Nature.
Mhm.
Because
Absolutely.
constantly changing. What is Mother Nature gonna do now? What is she? Because she's constantly in motion. She's constantly moving. She's constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. Everything moves. The question is, how fast is it gonna move? So it's gonna move. The question is, how fast.
Are you going to acknowledge it? So like I said, smart people refer to what? The weather.
Right.
Before they leave the house. Let me find out what they're predicting
Right.
is going to happen with the weather today, so I can do what? So I can
Prepare.
adjust and
Uh-huh.
prepare myself
Prepare.
accordingly.
And
But
you
if
may not
fail
need
to do that.
right. And you may not need it, but it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
It's no guesswork if you pay attention. So it requires some observation.
That's
So
it.
let me take a station identification break right there and say, well, why do we want men to be part of this conversation tonight? Observation is so important when you're in a relationship for both men and women.
Yep.
But particularly if you're in a relationship with a woman, whether you're a woman in a relationship with a woman or a man in a relationship with a woman. Yeah, I said it. Okay. You need to observe.
Yep.
A woman walking in her feminine energy is going to display those changes in her psyche and her emotions long before she says anything. Now,
Yeah.
typically we attribute that to men, right? Well, you know, men don't talk about their feelings and all of that. They don't. But guess what? Women, even though we will eventually explain or describe to you what's going on internally, you can see what is happening with us much quicker than
Oh,
we
yeah.
can articulate it, if you're paying attention.
If you're paying attention.
Now,
Yeah.
some people think that's manipulative. Oh, she over there having temper tantrums and stuff like that. Honestly, a mature woman not playing that game, because again, I've seen women play that game. I would say in my 20s, I played it. Okay. But honestly, when we talk about our facial expressions,
Yep.
the facial expressions will tell it even before sometimes you're aware. I've had my kids come up to me. Are you okay? I'm good.
Uh-huh.
Nah,
Yep.
you're not. Something's going on with you.
Uh-huh.
They know what my peaceful face looks
That's
like.
it.
They know what
That's
my
it.
excited, content face looks like. And that ain't it.
Right. Right. You're exactly correct. My husband, I can sit at the table. One time I was just sitting at the table and at the time I was having a lot of muscle spasms, but I didn't want to always tell him because I didn't want him to worry. And my husband looked at me from behind and said, "Your neck is bothering you, isn't it?" And I said, "Why you say that?" He said, "Because you're not even sitting right." And then he looked at my face. He said, "Come here," and gave me a full body massage because he could see on my face
Mm-hmm.
and he could see my posture
Mm-hmm.
wasn't right. And oftentimes I tell him, "Well, baby, I'm gonna be okay." He said, "No, because if we don't catch this now, you're gonna be worse later. So let's go and take care of this." I thank God for that, because that's not common in a lot of relationships. It's just not.
It's not. Because
And
first of
I
all,
think
people have to, in order to have observed that, he had to have spent some time getting to know you.
that's it right
So
there.
you're not going to be able to make that observation unless you invested some time getting to know. But here's where the feminine energy piece comes into the example that she just shared. So if you're taking notes, pay attention. A big part of feminine energy is the ability to receive.
That's it.
And if you're not balanced, because I'm about to get to my list, so I don't lose anybody. Okay.
This
If
about
you're
to get
not
hot, I can
balanced,
tell right now.
okay, I know. I was about to touch the fan because I feel it coming. So it's not just you. It's coming from the south. It's coming from the south, right? So, but if you're not balanced, you won't be able to receive. And so for so many of us, where the balance is often there, and there's been times in my life where my balance was off, meaning that I was channeling more of my masculine than my feminine, you will reject that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the heart of femininity is reception, being able to receive. Even if we think about that weather, right? Clouds receive what? The air forces that are around them that causes them to change. And either rain is going to expel or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm no science teacher, but Google the rest. Okay. But they receive. And so when we're not, and that's where we see the pushback from men. I've tried to do this for her and I tried to do that for her. And she either rejected it or she side-eyed me. Or what are you trying to do? Because your balance is off. There's reasons. Every behavior is rooted in a reason. So I don't ever want to say, yup, she sure did. That, you know. Another expression I don't like is what the resting bitch face. Okay, so when we see somebody walking, she don't smile, there's a reason why that woman's face is hard like that. Her balance has shifted. There's reasons for the shift in the balance. But tonight we want to talk about how to reshift it. So it can be trauma. We touched on it a little bit last week. So it could be trauma where you've learned for me to be soft means I'm too vulnerable and I'm unprotected.
And I'm weak.
So therefore, I must guard myself, right? I have to equip myself. I have to be stronger. I have to be a protector since no one was a protector for me.
Right.
So there's the trauma. It could be trauma directly, right? So from an abusive parent of either sex. It could be indirectly from the absence of a parent that was affirming and loving and protecting, whether that again is a father or a mother. We spend so many times talking about daddy issues. It's a lot of men and women walking around with mommy issues.
Oh, yes.
Trust me, in 2023, I will be doing a show on mommy issues because
Oh,
it's
yes.
coming up more and more and more, again, for both men and women. So when we see someone who is not able to stay balanced, again, men and women, see some men who did not get that fathering. And so what does it look like? He manifests through having more feminine energy than you would expect a man to have. Now, people will take it a step further. Oh, he was raised by women, so he's soft, or that's where these gay men come from because all they saw were women.
Mm-mm.
It's not even how he defines his sexuality, it's how he shows up in the world. And so if he was never shown, this is the manifestation of masculine energy in a positive way. Because again, a lot of men, if they've been raised by a lot of women, again, that's because there was an abusive man in that situation or an absent man or men. So not only was there maybe a lack of models, but there were toxic models. And so I don't want to be that. So I'm going to emulate the women that I've seen. And there, unfortunately, causes a shift in his masculine energy. So then what kind of woman does he choose? A masculine woman.
Mhm.
He chooses a masculine woman, but then ends up upset because that ain't what I wanted. Because a woman, in my mind, supposed to show up like this, but how can she?
Right.
How can she? Because one thing that we talked about last week too is the yin and the yang, right? Which is why both exist within us in individuals, and they also exist in the world of relationship. So there has to be a balance within ourselves for us to walk in our own individuality, but there also needs to be a balance so we can entertain or be joined in a relationship with another. Again, even in same-sex couples, this is true. There has to be a balance. One of us has got to be a little bit more or a little bit less for us to coexist. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it still doesn't mean gender identity. Again, I have to do a whole nother show on it. Not try and go there tonight. Absolutely. Abusive spouse and abusive relationship. I'm trying to read some of the things in the chat. Absolutely. Even in school as an educator, I've seen it, right? Where girls don't be a crybaby, right? So that's negative for you
Right.
to show emotion. Definitely, we know that's the case for boys.
Right.
Okay. And then also you need to stand up for yourself. So it's wrong. It's negative for me to walk in my feminine energy. It's a positive for me to walk in my masculine energy. And then people will then turn around and ridicule that same girl for walking more in her masculine energy. So it's so many just mixed messages, which is, again, what goes back to what Angie was saying about knowing yourself. And that's a difficult road. So how do we shift this? If we've had trauma, if we've had abuse, if we've had negative images or absent images, how do we kind of reset the dial to the middle, if there is such a thing? Okay, if there is such a thing. The first one is letting your creativity flow. Now, some of these are going to sound really far-fetched. I'm going to do what? I'm going to let my creativity flow. We did talk about last week femininity being synonymous with creativity. Why? What do women do? What is one of our primary roles?
Sure.
What is it? Yeah, bringing forth children, offspring, okay? Working with the creator, right, as a co-creator, okay? So it's in us to be creative, but many times we put a lid on that because it's not seen as lucrative. It's not seen as responsible is not seen as tangible enough for you to just be creative. Think back to school. And like I said, I do a lot of work in early childhood. That's my primary career. And so one of the big fights I have with teachers is, would you let the children just draw what they want to draw? Could you? Why do they have to color inside the lines? That was somebody else's drawing.
Right.
Maybe they're adding to that because there was something that they see missing.
Right.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
To say that to a young child, you can color this how you need to color this. Or let's get rid of the coloring sheet altogether and just give you a blank piece of paper and say, exactly, what's in your mind's eye?
Mm-hmm.
That also sets the stage for us to be able to, and Angie, I think I heard you talk about dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
That sets the stage for you to be, dreaming is creative. To see something that does not exist on this plane and see it clearly. That's creativity. But when we tell children, get your head out the sky and pay attention, right? That's a waste of time. Or even young people who flow into creative, that's not going to pay your bills. Go get that good government job. That definitely was a message in our generation, right?
Yeah.
Go get the good government job and you can do all of that over there somewhere.
Right.
Letting our creative flow. So let's think about that for a moment. Why would that help us shift our feminine energy? Because in that moment of creativity, you have to be vulnerable to be able to hear and to feel, to make decisions even in that creative moment. It can't be forced. So think about the musical analogy that I gave. It's unstressed and it flows. So if I take a moment to say, I want to create a song, I want to create a rap, I want to draw something, I want to make something. It could be cooking something, right? Create it. I want to make something that tastes like this. I've had something like this, but I want to put a different spin on it. That's creativity. And in that moment, you can't be worried about the left or the right, what somebody else told you. In that moment, you have the power, something that has never existed. That's how unique you are. If you allow yourself to be creative.
Yeah.
So the creative is not just the arts. Okay, it is simply, and when I teach a class on creativity, there's actually two kinds of creativity. I call it the big C creativity and the small C creativity. So small C creativity is just that. It's kind of making things beautiful around you. But the big C creativity is really at the heart of innovation, right? And inventions, because you're literally creating something that has never existed before. So whether that's on a small scale that it only affects your life or it actually reaches the masses, it's still yet creativity. You're giving birth to something that was not here before you got here. Okay. And so that's tapping into your feminine energy. And so in the busyness of our lives, just taking 15 or 30 minutes, say, I'm going to go write something, journaling, creative. I'm using my words to weave a picture about what I've experienced and maybe even dreaming what I want to experience. I've done several shows on that, telling people about once I started seriously journaling about specific things. Now, it's one thing for me to just, this is what happened to me today. Today was a good day. And then there's journaling about where I see my life going, the visionary journaling,
My Lord.
creating the life I want. Write the vision, make it plain.
Yeah.
For the Bible students, right? Oh, she going on, she all doing that new age stuff. No, that's Bible.
It sure is.
Write the vision and make it plain. Get your journal. What do you see for your future? I told you, Angie, when did I do that? September 2020, I think I told you. Because I think everybody sat still in 2020.
Yeah. You didn't have nothing but time to sit still.
Okay.
Kind of regroup.
Listen, September 2020. I'm gonna try to tell this story without crying, and then I'm gonna go to my next point because I think you all wanted to say a lot about number 2. But September 2020, I journaled the narrative of the relationship that I desired. Not a list. And I challenged the women in my group, Love and Life According to Dr. Kim on Facebook, 2000 strong. I challenged them, write it out in living color. What does that relationship look like?
Yep.
What does it sound like? You remember when I said that?
Yep.
What is it? Yep. What does it look like, sound like, feel like, smell like?
Yep.
Write it that descriptively. So
Uh-huh.
when it shows up, you'll recognize it.
You can recognize it.
Goes beyond a list.
Oh yeah.
Not only does it condition you to be able to identify it, it positions you to receive it.
Receive it.
Oh my God, that wasn't even in my notes. That was good.
It was good. It was good.
My foot got light on that, but it did, because now I'm vulnerable, right, to the creative voice within.
Yep.
I can see it.
Yep.
Wow.
I asked a friend
Mhm.
what I asked her what makes her happy. And
Ooh.
then she got quiet. I said, well, can you define your happiness?
Ooh. Why are you asking hard questions?
Because the question when I got engaged, a lot of my friends, because I'm gonna tell you, before I got engaged, I have friends who were like, we're looking for their soulmate. And I was like, shoot, my daughter going to college, it's mama's turn. I can go on and I can start dating now. Because I didn't have people over my daughter like that.
Okay.
So when she left to go to college, I was like, well, y'all can go ahead with that. I'm about to have me some fun, blah, 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 blah. And I promise you, a year later, I was engaged. And so I had a
Wow.
lot of friends that said to me, how did you know that he was the one? And then I said, because I was happy every time I was with him. And when I wasn't with him, I wasn't happy.
Mm.
And then they said, well, how did you know? I said, because I could define my happiness. And so I asked her, I said, can you define your happiness? And then she got quiet again. And I said, if you can't define your own happiness,
Listen.
how will you know when you get it? How will you recognize it?
Come on.
Your happiness probably came 2 or 3 times, and because you did not define it for yourself, you couldn't recognize the blessing that was right in your face.
God today.
So we have to but then that goes back again to knowing who you are.
That's all I was saying. That's all I was waiting for.
Knowing who you are and what you need, what does it for you, what makes it for you, what makes you happy in your life. And guess what? And that changes as you grow.
It does. It does.
Because the dreams that I had in my 20s are not the same dreams I have in my 50s. They not. They
So
different.
is that so? Okay, so let me ask you this: is it because we're going to do it a part 3? But is it because of your lived experience that your requirements for happiness changed, or was it the freedom to be authentic in those requirements? Do you get what I'm saying? So did it really change because you lived and kind of learned some things, or was it that you finally at 50 was like, I can be honest about what makes Angelia happy that nobody else may understand.
Remember when I was talking on the other one, I said at 30, I had a light bulb moment at 30.
I remember that, cut your hair and everything.
Because all my life I have been taking care of everybody else. And I've always put my family and other people in front of my desires, my wishes, the things that I wanted to do in my life. I've always put other people in front of me because I enjoy helping people and being there for people. Unfortunately, people take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when my kindness started to feel like a burden, and I was sitting in my own self puddle, and I thought about that, and I was talking to God about it. It's sort of like, at what point is it going to be about you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ever.
Okay, so that happened at 30. Okay, so after that, it sort of kind of like freed me up, if that makes sense, to free me up to be my authentic self. And I got to the place where I was so free in my authenticity that it didn't bother me if other people weren't okay with my authenticity. That's fine. They just don't have to be in my space.
That's it.
Because I'm not gonna dumb myself down because you're not confident in the space that you in. I'm gonna need you to step your game up. Well, let's have a conversation. What I'm not gonna do is stop being my authentic self because you're not confident or even know your authentic self. So I've got, God gave me freedom in that because I was worried. Because like I said, I like to help people. I like to do for people. It's nothing for me to make some stuff for people if I see that they in need. That's the part of me that is that God agape part of me. So I don't have a problem with that. But I'm not going to let somebody make me stop being my authentic self because they don't know who they are. So God gave me freedom in making those choices. So, but I will say, like I said, in my 20s, you know, my dream, keeping it real. Can we keep it real for a minute?
Come on, please do. That's what we do here.
In my 20s, I wanted to get married. I always wanted to be married. I wanted 4 kids. I wanted 3 boys and a girl. Okay. And I got engaged 3 times. And I gave back all 3 rings.
My Lord.
Because they changed. Once they put the ring on my finger, they turned into crazy people.
See?
And then I had to reevaluate. Hold on. Is this what I want? A life with? Is this what I want? Nah. So I gave the ring back. And my friends was like, why you get a ring back? I said, because when I'm done, I said, I'm done. I don't want you coming back talking about give me my ring back. I'm okay. I'm good. Live your life. It's okay. So a
ring is a promise to marry. So if you know you're not going to marry the person, people give the ring back.
Give the ring back.
Only a ring if you're going to marry them. Stop playing.
I ain't stuck like that. So in my 30s, I just spent time getting to know Angelia separate from a man, separate from my family, separate from my child. What is Angelia like? What does Angelia want? What does it for Angelia? You know, I defined my happiness and I wrote down, if I decide to get married, this is what I need in my husband. If I decide. And it wasn't until my friend works for Avon. And you know, they have these really pretty, sometimes wedding bands made out of silver wedding bands. And they had this beautiful set. I said, you know, I'm going to get me a fake ring set. So when I go out, I ain't got to worry about niggas messing with me. I'm going to say I'm married. Boom.
Hey, that's what you worse with the ring on.
Listen.
I'm just saying, that's what my research said.
That exactly happened. But I'm going to tell you what happened, what was strange. Because the only reason I ever wanted to get married was to have kids.
Okay. I'm with you.
So I shut it, you know, when I didn't get married at 35, I shut the shop down because I ain't trying to be an old parent. I'm just not. Okay. I'm trying to be on the beach every year. So, so then I realized, I said, okay, let me figure this thing out. And because I had defined what I needed and what I wanted in a piece, a boyfriend, a companion, a fiance, and a husband, that when my husband showed up and exhibited all the things in all the categories, the majority, I'm not going to say all, but the majority, I would say 95% of all of my lists he encompassed. Things that I knew I needed for me to be in a marriage and stay there. Because I didn't want to just get married. I wanted to stay there. And he encompassed that. God said he give you the desires of your heart. He don't tell you how it's going to come. I had 1 daughter. Guess what my husband had?
What?
3 boys.
So you got your 4.
I got my 4. I got my 3 boys and my girl.
Same.
So
it only will.
You got to define your stuff so you can recognize your blessings when they come. If you don't change your focus on recognizing your blessings, you're going to always miss the good. And always the bad.
Always.
You got to change your perspective so you can enjoy your life.
So then that goes to, I'm going to skip over number 2 and number 3, the self-reflection.
Yeah.
Engaging in self-reflection is so important. Spending some time with yourself
Yep.
and saying, hey, what's going well with me?
Yeah.
Not going well with me. And then why? So I'm thinking about what you just said, and then I want Angie to come on back in. When you talked about the 3 engagements and returning the rings,
Yeah.
you know, I would think that would signal a conversation for self.
Yep.
We've been here 3 times.
But Pastor Wright,
What's going on?
but Pastor Wright said one thing. He told me, Pastor Wright's like my second daddy. And he told me one time, he said, matter of fact, he used it in a sermon too. He said, oftentimes when you meet people, you really don't meet the real person. You meet their
That's true.
representative.
That's true.
And sometimes it takes a while for you to spend time with that person.
That's true.
Be through the representative to the real person.
That's true.
Each of my engagements, I was with them for over a year and a half before I got engaged. So this
Wow.
wasn't no, oh, I met him. Oh, we love each other. 6 months later, we engaged. No, it didn't work
Right.
like that.
Right.
We was together for a while, you know, and then I started to see some things that didn't gel. And then when I asked about them, one of my fiancés went real super crazy.
Not super crazy.
No, super crazy.
Uh,
It got all up in my face. I said, oh, we doing that? Oh, okay. So I suggest you go outside and punch that tree. Because if you put your hands on me, it's going to be the last thing you do in this your life.
in this here life.
Mhm. And I said it with a straight face.
Mm-hmm.
And he left my house. And he got himself together. He tried to come back. I was done then.
See?
I was all the way done. Because if I can't simply ask you a question without you jumping up in my face, what's going to happen when some real stuff go down?
That's the problem.
You're going to be trying to beat me down, and then I'm going to have to kill you and tell your mama where your body parts are.
So that was a blessing that you got to see that right before you made that commitment. But
Yeah.
what I was going to say about the self-reflection now, Rev pushed back on me, right? After my first time, he said, well, he said, I'm going to say this. He said, you put more thought into vetting colleges when you were choosing where you were going to go to school than you did when you chose your husband.
Mm.
Now, my husband that he was referring to was one of his favorite children.
Oh,
Okay, but he was like, my process is kind of like, how did I end here? And owning my piece of the puzzle because I chose it.
right.
And anybody who knows that story, I chose him long before he chose me. I planned out our wedding and everything in freshman honors English.
Wow.
Okay. 1980.
Wow.
Okay. He got married to somebody else in 82. And I told her this story and I laughed. I was like, they ain't gonna last because he my husband. Like, whatever. Like, congratulations, y'all. Now, I'm not on his radar at all. But that's my husband.
Right.
Get married. How about 8 years later? We got married on the day and time that I planned.
Mm-hmm.
In 1980, it happened in 1988.
Wow.
Same day and time. And the only thing changed was one of the colors because he didn't like how it looked with his tuxedo. But my point is this. Rev pushed that back on me. He said, you put more effort into choosing a college, meaning looking at my requirements. What do I need from the college? How much is it going to cost me? How much time? What do I need to bring to the table to be successful at this college? He said, you gave more effort to choosing a college than you did for choosing this man. And now you stand here questioning who he is when guess what? That's who he was day one.
Yep.
But you weren't looking at that. You just using the.
Because you had the love glasses on.
I did. Well, honey, that smile was everything.
It was.
God rest his soul. That smile was everything.
Yeah, it was.
So
He had that savoir-faire about him.
he did. I mean, hey, Guilty.
Listen, I ain't mad. Listen, I understand.
Authenticity, I'm my own man. Okay. But so that's why I was pushing back and saying against self-reflection. I didn't like that when he said it. I didn't like it when my mother brought it back to me. And this was about my second time. She said, well, you, if nothing else, you have to own the fact that you chose him.
Yeah.
I didn't like that answer.
Yeah. But it's the truth.
Did you just hear me say that this man cheated on me? He
But
was
we did choose.
emotionally abusive. He was verbally abusive. She said, but you got to sit in that space. Self-reflection. For those of you who are taking notes, this is how you shift your energy.
Yeah.
You chose him. So where were you in your mental space? Where were you emotionally? Where were you in your feminine energy when you chose him? And it was clear for me when I sat in self-reflection, I was looking to be saved.
Ooh.
So it made sense.
Well, there it go.
But then I knew I had to shift because the salvation that I was looking for from a partner resided within Kim already.
Yep.
But I relinquished that to say it's got to be something from the external that's going to make me okay. Self-reflection.
Yeah.
And like Angie has said, the identification of self. Come on, sis, because you've been quiet long. She went and got snacks and everything. So I'm going to sip a minute while you fill us in on the self-reflection. And then we're going to pick up on connecting with nature and stuff. Go ahead.
Well, my whole thing with the self-reflection is paramount. I too have a story where I put in far more energy and attention to what I wanted to do with my life as far as schooling and vocation and what have you, than I did with choosing a mate. My first mate, my first husband, well, my only husband, who is now my former husband. What was interesting was that I chose him. He knows this story. So if it got back to him, he wouldn't be shocked. I was in high school and I actually had interest in him solely because of a bet that me and another sister made. And she felt that she wanted him and I wanted him, and we put money on the table who would get him.
Is that, oh my God, I can't function.
And I got him.
Boom.
Now the question bears to still be asked, did I win?
Did you win?
Did you
You know, or did she win?
right, that part.
Okay. And she and I actually laugh about that sometimes. You know, I think she's been married several times, and I finally released the man, gave him his freedom, you know.
Gave him his freedom.
I gave him his freedom. But what was interesting is that the day I was going to marry him, and that day I did marry him, I heard my spirit, my Ori, say to me,
No.
and I will quote it, "You know he don't love you like that."
My Lord.
Oh my goodness.
It was that clear?
It was that clear.
Wow.
And to which my response, my little 20-something-year-old response, actually, yes, 20. My response was, I know that, but he'll grow to love me.
Oh.
He will see how much I love him. And how could he not?
Which I agree.
Okay.
But
However, we were both kids. You're
Right.
talking about when I met him, we were 16 and 17 years of age.
Wow.
Okay. And we were children when we had our first child.
Wow.
And we were children in the streets as well. And so what he and I did, as I would grow and go to school and learn more, we trauma bonded. And that didn't work. So I figured, well, together in these streets, we killing the game. We're surmounting all odds. But I didn't know me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I didn't know myself.
Right.
And I thought I needed him to make me be me, for me to be this great, what I thought was a woman at the time.
Mhm.
And so it takes me all the way back full circle as I sit here at 61 talking about.
What you
I
say?
know, right? She don't look nowhere
Yeah, you know,
61.
Angelia, I just turned 61 in November, girl.
61
Shut the front
where?
door.
61 where? I ain't scared now. Come on,
You
61.
know,
All right now.
my oldest child is 41.
Girl, you look like you in your 30s.
I thank you for that. And my oldest son would not appreciate it. Probably my youngest wouldn't either, because he'll be 32 in a couple of weeks.
And his friends probably looking at you too. Get off my mama.
Okay. Right. Ain't nobody ask you nothing. Go ahead, finish your thoughts.
Thousand ever. The point, back to the point,
Back to
focus,
the point.
you know, once I learned who I am, I met her at 40.
Yep.
I met her at 40. And then I began to pay attention to her evolution.
Mhm.
Come on, Edge. Come on.
And her evolution came full circle at 50. And what she's doing now as a woman over 60 is just mind-boggling.
See?
When I chose to free my ex-husband, and I use the term free because I don't think he realized he needed to be free. He was moving in a direction, but out of habit, out of
Yep.
just accustomed to us being together. He didn't really, I kept giving him out to be free, but he wouldn't take them. And what happened, my Ori says, you knew this. We told you.
We told you.
You're going to have to be the one to set this in right motion.
My Lord.
And in my Gladys Knight voice, neither one of us wanted to be the first to say goodbye.
Don't be in my playlist.
Ooh.
Okay, neither one of us. But at the end of the day, because I was working and operating out of my creative force
Mhm.
and hearing, by then I'd learned how to fully listen
Yep.
to the goddess in me.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, you cannot teach people that God indwells in them and then don't teach them to listen and trust that voice.
That's
Ooh.
it. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
And unfortunately, sometimes there's a level of bipolarism that is taught in the church,
Well,
Ooh.
because you'll say out of one side of the mouth, you know, your heart is corrupt and you can't trust anything of it.
but
God indwells, and if God indwells and God is in your heart, then why are we not listening to her when she speaks?
Exactly.
And then the prophecy, according to the stylistic, said, stop, look, and listen to your heart.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Okay. And so it again, it goes back to that whole thing about knowing
Yes.
yourself and
Yes.
defining
Yes.
and being able to recognize that voice.
Mhm.
Yes.
At the point when I got real clear, I was 55. 55.
Uh-huh.
55, hitting the restart
Mhm.
button.
Ain't no shame.
Mm-hmm.
5,
Sure ain't.
moving across the country. I gave a man a whole state. You can have all of Illinois. I will go find me another state.
She took the midnight train to Georgia.
Yes, literally. Literally. Okay.
Another Gladys song, since we're gonna do Gladys.
Okay, since we gonna do
Okay.
Gladys, okay?
Okay.
But I didn't even stop. I went all the way to coastal Georgia. Okay.
Wow.
And the whole thing, like now he and I are finally coming to a space where we're learning how to communicate efficaciously
Mhm.
without any type of vitriol
Right.
amongst us.
Right.
Where when he asks me, how you doing? I know he genuinely means, how you doing?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Not fishing or anything. Yep.
Right.
Right.
But, and it feels okay because now I know in his freedom, he's found himself
Uh-huh.
finding who he's becoming.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Listen.
Uh-huh.
That's the same thing we all have to move and work with. Men,
Yeah.
we as women we don't think cognizantly about the fact that men process it differently, and we know that, but we don't think that they process it at the depths that we do. I don't
Right.
know why we don't. I don't know if it's our own arrogance of what. I don't know what that is. But what I know is if I hadn't taken the time to finally know me, listen to me, I wouldn't be able to speak, teach, and move the way I'm moving.
Not at all.
Remember the brother asking me, could I forgive if I could find a way to forgive him? Even the way I look at forgiveness has changed.
Wow.
Because what I said, and I'm not putting our business out, I got hurt, I left, all of that. But I remember after saying it, sitting back in reflection and thinking, you've grown, girl. I like this girl you're growing into.
Right.
Because when he asked me to forgive, my response was, there's nothing for me to forgive you for. The person who I need to forgive is me. I forgive me for not believing that I was enough. I forgive me for thinking that the only way I could be substantiated and validated was through you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Come on.
I forgive me for not trusting the woman I am and the woman I am becoming simultaneously, that those girls had this thing on lock. I forgive me for giving you so much power to literally define who I am when the power belonged to me all along.
All the time, from the beginning. From the beginning.
I was told by the inner me. That's why I keep saying we have to understand.
Mm-hmm.
The inner me told me 40 plus years ago, he didn't love you like that. That didn't make him a bad person.
At all. It
He
just is
just
what it
didn't love
is.
me like that. And if I was honest with myself, I didn't love him like that either.
My Lord, my Lord.
See,
Because
that's heavy.
what I loved was proving everyone wrong around me who said
See,
that wasn't what I should be doing. It takes a level of inner reflection
mm-hmm.
to really get there. There was the beginning of my balance. When you want to talk about being off kiltered,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm talking about I was off my square so tough that after my Ori said, you know, he don't love you like that. And I went through my little spiel. My Ori said, oh, she need to scrape her head on the concrete. Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, have that concrete, girl. There's plenty of it out there. I don't know if your head will sustain it all, but go ahead, girl.
Say,
It
do
was
what you
at
need
the
to do.
point when I got tired that I had to stop
Yeah.
and go into the silence, where I had to stop and have my dark night of the soul so that I could begin to balance.
Yeah.
Because what I knew was I didn't want to carry forward what I had in my 40s or what I had in my 50s into my 60s.
That part.
And so
And
that's what it is, a
promised
conscious decision, a conscious decision.
I promised myself.
Yep.
And I started the movement to clean house so that by the time I had my 60th birthday, I started that movement at 55.
Yeah.
And so I think I've answered your question. I hope I didn't, but I just wanted to kind of give a little more meat
Context to
as
it.
to
Yeah,
where-
I get it.
how I got there. Because
Right.
I know a big part of the question, we'll talk about balance, but then people are, yeah, but how do you get there?
So you said about 2 or 3 things. So I heard you say that you allowed your intuition to guide you more
Mhm,
as a result of that. Like you said, when you saw what happened when you ignored it.
mhm.
And that's part of your feminine energy, people. Hello, if y'all still out there. We
Yeah.
lost a few in the chat. Come back and invite some friends, okay? But allowing your intuition to guide you more. That does not make you weak. It doesn't make you spooky when you hear that voice. That is the strength of your inner woman saying, hey, this is what's going on outside of you. Pay attention. But if you ignore her, and I like that you said that, and you saw that in my notes too, where I have developed that third person in talking to her, which is in me. Okay. And having that conversation. And when I get those messages, those are real messages. I need to pay attention. So I have to allow my intuition to guide me more. That's only going to happen though through self-reflection and me time.
Mhm.
It's only going to happen if you carve out time to be still and listen.
Yeah.
And sometimes that is the hardest for women to do because we honor busyness.
Mhm.
And that's our badge of courage is busyness. I
Yeah.
heard Angelia say it earlier. I'm always helping somebody. I'm always looking to see what I could do to make sure everybody's okay. And while that is a huge part of our femininity, balance it, ladies. Balance it. It should never be to your demise.
Right.
So no is not a bad word.
Not at all.
Maybe is not being disloyal. Later is not a disappointment. So honoring the me time is critical and it's essential to keeping this balance. You got to check in with her. So for me, it's my morning devotion. I don't talk to me until I've talked to the creator.
Woo.
Then I come back and talk to me, all of us in here, me, myself, and I. We good. Where are we at today? The creator said This is where we're going for today. We all on board? Okay. Then I exit my bed. Now, all of that has happened before I make contact with the outside world. Me time. Me with me with the creator.
Mhm.
Then I can deal with everybody else and not a second sooner.
Right.
I told people. Now, I've honored that. So, Angie, when you just said how, there's many ways. I will share with you how I honor that me time. And you know it to be true. That do not disturb is religious on my phone.
Mhm.
You ain't getting through my phone before 9 o'clock in the morning and after 10 o'clock at night.
All right. All right.
I must insist that from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m., unless you are the children of my loins, and they know it better be an emergency.
Right.
Don't ring my phone, don't text me from 10 o'clock at night until 9 in the morning, unless you're dying or bleeding from your head. Because I got to be with Kim. I give all day long and I give 110%. And that I do have pride in. That when I show up, I'm going to give all that I know to give. But baby, I got to reserve some of that for me. And from 10 p.m. to 9 a.m., it's Kim time. It's Kim time. It's only what Kim want to do. It's only what Kim wants to listen to. It's only what Kim wants to not do. Okay? Because again, there's a lot of narratives that I had to dismantle to be able to do that. How you going to rest with dishes in the sink? I couldn't at one point. Now I can. Then guess what? I guarantee they're going to be there in the morning.
That's right. That's right.
Ask me how I know. How are you going to rest with clothes in the dryer? Easy, because they're going to be there in the morning. I would rather the clothes be there in the morning than me be in the emergency room or the urgent care, because I've stressed myself out trying to be what somebody has told me is the perfect woman.
Yeah.
What somebody else told me, not what I told me. So I remember making a deal when you talk about somebody defining you, Angie. I remember making the deal with my ex-husband. I said, look, and trying to find some peace. You can have 2 out of 3 of these on any given day. But there are rare occurrences that you will have all 3. You can have a perfect me, you can have perfect kids, and you can have a perfect house.
Oh,
Now you can have 2 out of 3 of those on any given day. I will promise you that is your wife. But there's a few days I can give you all 3. And it'll be a personal sacrifice to do that because I know it means so much to you. But I cannot, for my own peace, do that on a regular basis, guarantee that.
right.
And obviously that was not enough because
Right.
I'm sitting here now, outside of that relationship. But that was the beginning, like Angie was talking about, that was the beginning of that personal dialogue. What does Kim need to be okay? What does she pride herself in? Who is she? I know I'm a good mother, but in order to be a good mother, what does that mean to be a good mother? My kids are clean, they're fed, they've had some attention. Well, in order to me to do that, maybe I needed to leave the dishes in the sink to be able to look this kid in their face.
Right.
Maybe I needed to not take care of my outer to make sure the house and the kids showed up. Maybe in that particular instance, in that case, for my husband's sake. And then maybe, guess what, on the days where I relinquished working outside of my home, I was able to do all 3 on a consistent basis. But I had to identify that for myself. What makes you a good mother? What makes you a good Kim? That was probably the hardest question to answer. Like you said, you asked your friend what makes you happy. I remember my pastor asking me, what is Kim like? I was a month and a half trying to come up with that answer. I promise you. What is Kim like? So then when I couldn't answer that for a couple of weeks, he said, what brings you joy? I couldn't answer that. So then he came back and he said, when was the last time you experienced joy?
Woo!
I had to sit for a couple of weeks with that. Now, here's the sad part. Let me give a shout out to Reverend Dr. Reginald Wade Williams, Jr., period, my pastor. So when he asked me that second question, when was the last time you experienced joy? Now this is 2010. Do you know I had to go back to the 80s?
Wow.
Say, well, just sheer joy. And he pushed back, not joy in being a mother,
Mm.
not joy in being a wife, not joy in being a daughter, joy as Kim.
What does it for you?
And I was like, oh my God, I had to go all the way back to the 80s when I was in college. And I said, I remember being on, here's self-reflection. We're still in the notes. Okay, so if you're taking notes, we're still there. This is self-reflection and me time, okay? And allowing your God, your intuition to guide you. So it took me back to being at Columbia College, Chicago. So anybody know Columbia College?
Mhm.
Station right there on Michigan Avenue, the famous Michigan Avenue in Chicago, facing Grant Park, the famous Grant Park. And I remember being on the 15th floor in one of the art studios there. And I had my easel set up and I'm sketching in charcoal, and Prince was playing in the background, Condition of the Heart. And I was overlooking Grant Park and I'm sketching, and that to me was nirvana. And I said, that's the last time, I'm trying not to cry. That was the last time I remembered feeling pure joy being me. What was I doing, y'all? Number one, being creative. I was in my feminine energy. It's right there in the notes, y'all. I know it sounds like we're going all over the place, but we're really right here. I was in my creative, and I was in a space that was defined by nobody but Kim.
Mhm.
I couldn't say that I had anybody in my family who had gone that route. That was the one route I chose for myself. And that was joy. I'm looking at the lake, which Angie, me and her love the water. Shout out to my unicorn angel who also loves the water.
Why did
I'm
you-
looking at the water. I'm listening to one of my favorite artists, and I'm creating something. My teacher didn't tell me what I had to draw. He said, listen. I had my Walkman on, and that was new technology then. So wasn't nobody else listening to what I was listening to. And I was in heaven right here on earth. Joy. So my pastor said, now, if that was that moment, what do you need to do so you can experience that on a regular?
Mhm.
So the first thing I did is I was like, I love music. And anybody who knows, my son's a musician, right? Married a musician, but I love music on my own. So what am I going to start doing? I need to start listening to my music again. I need to start going to listen to live music. And now, even in the midst of this hailstorm I was going through in 2010, and that was a year I hope to never see again. Okay.
Mhm.
Even as I was going through that, there was pockets of joy because I found out what makes me tick.
Yep.
And then I created the me time. And in those spaces of listening to music, other things became clear
Mhm.
because I was sitting in me time with the person who I love best
Mhm.
and listening to her heart.
Mhm.
And then it became clear what the next step needed to be, and the next step needed to be, and the next step needed to be. The balance. You got to be vulnerable when you sit and listening to music. You got to take it in. Receiving,
Mhm.
shifting the balance. I ain't got to be hard and fight. I can be me, and a lot of things will deflect from me
Mhm.
as I flow in my natural and authentic self. There are certain things that won't even come nigh you if you're operating in your true self. But people know, and the universe knows when you're not sure.
Mhm.
Those tests will
Mhm.
come, right?
Oh yeah.
Those tests will come. So the me time is important. Scheduling that, being intentional about that.
Oh,
The book I'm reading now, Rest as Resistance, right? Rest is Resistance by the author and the founder of the NAP Ministry. Look for her on Facebook. So important that she took the me time to a whole nother level. Scheduling rest is another way to shift your energy.
Mhm.
To rest, you're going to be able to do what? Hear your inner voice.
Mhm.
You're going to have the energy to say no. You'll be able to see the bigger picture. You'll be able to dream, wonder, think, plan, because you have rested this vessel that you carry so much responsibility in and so many expectations. You have to schedule it in. So I'm saying mine is the do not disturb. I remember when I worked from home, I scheduled a rest time, 12 to 12:30. Some people take it as lunch. So I'm going to take a nap. Whether I went to sleep or not, I was quiet. So sometimes I could think about the future. Sometimes I could think about the rest of that day and decide this is what I'm going to say yes to. This is what I'm going to say no to. Feminine energy.
Yeah.
Feminine energy. Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
ask a question? How?
Sure can.
Well, that's what I struggle with even today.
Mhm.
I can schedule all day long, and I will sit in the bed, and I'm literally looking at the ceiling and counting because my brain won't shut itself down. I have to literally do write out my to-do list to get everything off of my head, so that, and then after I do that, another way, which is they always say, I'm a strange bird, I'll admit that. They always say, don't watch TV if you're trying to go to sleep.
Mhm.
But for me, when I watch TV and veg out, that calms my mind down.
Okay.
But I can go to sleep.
Okay.
It's weird because if I don't, I've sat in the room and I'm just sitting there wide awake. I can't shut my mind down.
Mhm.
To the
Mhm.
point where my husband is starting to get a little concerned.
Okay.
And so he was like, I really don't want you having to take any pills to go to sleep, but get some tea or something because you need to get more rest. Because I normally fall asleep around 2 a.m.
Wow.
When I used to work overnights, that's when I would take my lunch and I would go to sleep from 2 to 3 o'clock. And then I would
Okay.
get up and finish my journey. And
Okay.
for some reason, I can't seem to go to sleep. I have to be like super exhausted for me to go to bed before 1 or 2 o'clock.
You
Now,
still, your body clock is still there. That's a huge part of it. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then the other part is that, but I do still get like 7, 8 hours of sleep because I'll go to sleep at 2 and I'll wake up. I get 7.5. So I go to bed at 2 and then I'll get up at like 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay. Okay.
I'm still getting my 8 hours of sleep. It's just at a different time of the day. But I want to go to bed earlier than that. I want to try to get my mind to shut itself down so that I can go to bed like at 10:30 or 11, because I know I'm getting older, and whether our mind says one thing, but your body will let you know later, nigga, you is 59.
Okay. And you need your sleep.
And you need your sleep. You
So
ain't
the short answer is this, and we could talk more at length, on our own. But the short answer is developing some new routines, right? And it doesn't mean that you're turning the TV off, but it may be what you're watching on the TV. It might be some other routines that you start scaling back those hours just a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier over time.
Okay.
But absolutely. But that even coming to you means what, like I said, you've invested in listening to that intuition and answering, and that coming to you in the meantime, and you receiving, right?
Uh-huh.
What your husband has said to you as a concern.
Mhm.
And again, and I said this earlier in the broadcast, for those of you who came in a little bit later, we're still here. You better bring some more friends in here. And you all talk to me in the chat. I agree with you, Rebecca. Absolutely. You got to talk to yourself. And just like Angelia saying, talking to herself. But the fact that you were able to receive that, because a lot of times, again, if we're not operating in our feminine energy, we'll push back on that. You're criticizing me.
Right.
Okay?
But
Or you're saying I did something wrong. It's like, no, I'm really coming from a point of care.
Exactly. And that's it right there. But I'm going to say this, I had to learn that being
Oh,
a
absolutely.
married woman at 50, I had to learn that because I've always had to take care of my daughter. I've had to be mama and daddy. And I was so happy I had a girlfriend say, well, you know, don't you have a problem with he telling you X, Y, Z? I said, no, I don't, because I've been the head of this house for the last 40 plus years. I'm okay with taking the back seat and let him take the lead. I'm okay with that.
And it's not
I
even
need
taking
some
the
rest.
back seat. How about it's just how about the passenger seat?
I need some rest. Can we talk about that?
But
And I
I
understand.
really want to correct. I want to correct that language because again,
Yeah.
we think that letting someone else take the lead means that you are subservient in some kind of way. And how about if you think about the car, you're in the passenger seat. I'm
We
right
side
next
by
to you.
side.
You're
Right.
driving, but we're getting there together.
Right. Side
Just
by
happen to
side.
have the accelerator pedal.
Right. Exactly.
But I'm right next to you. So it doesn't mean taking low. It doesn't mean that you're, walking around with blinders, but it
No.
does mean that, like I
No.
said, you're allowing that space, right? So then you
Right.
can concentrate on some other things. Like
That's
you
right,
said,
because-
because there was a point where you had the whole list. Now you're like, I can share that list. But I promise you, there's women that won't let go of that list. And sometimes, well, because when I've depended on people, they've disappointed me. So I found out I'm the only person I can depend on is myself. You're gonna kill yourself doing that. What does
Yes,
it
you
mean?
are.
You're dependent on the wrong people.
That's it right there.
How about you found that out with Terry, and we found that out, Angie, and our other relationships, that it wasn't that I was requiring too much or asking too much. I was just asking the wrong person.
Answer the wrong person.
I
Because
was expecting it from the wrong person.
I know at the end of the day, he makes decisions that will benefit our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can trust his decision in a lot of areas. And I'm thankful for that, because there have been in other relationships where I couldn't do that. So I'm
And you
grateful.
step up and you exercise maybe a little bit more of the masculine where there was a need to.
Yeah.
So again, that balance is deciding. There's moments, and Lindsay and I were talking about that earlier. It's like even being in a relationship, there may be some times as I'm walking as an individual, I may need to tap into more of that masculine energy that's within me already.
Yeah.
To stand up differently. Because I think we stand up in our feminine energy. And what were we saying? When you go to the mechanic,
Get an oil change.
yeah, you might need to activate a little bit more of that masculine energy, the assurance that I know what's going on. Or even if I ask you a question, I'm going to ask it in a certain way that requires you to answer me. So maybe I can't be as vulnerable. Maybe I can't be as fluid in those situations. So I got to, but it doesn't mean that I have to wear that all the time.
No.
In every space because of previous incidences or because of situational occurrences. So again, balancing and evaluating, right? Where you are in the moment. I had a couple, and then we're gonna get out of here because, of course, as always, we've gone past time. So we've gotten the letting your creativity flow, indulging in self-reflection, embrace receiving,
scheduling
rest, allowing your intuition to guide you more, giving yourself some me time. Some of that during that reflection is reflecting on your strengths, finding out, like I said, what it is I do really well. And I think that's kind of in tune to your intuition, right? I know this about myself. I do this well. I can trust that. I can do that. That's that self-awareness that Angie was talking about at the beginning. This is something I'm good at. I know that, like I've identified earlier, I read people pretty well. Or I'm good at making decisions. Or I'm good at assisting people, as you just said, achieving their goals. So when I know that, I can reflect on my strengths. I also know when people are lying to me. And maybe when those are people that don't need to be around me. No, you don't even know me. Because if you knew me, you wouldn't say that. If you knew me, you wouldn't put me in that position. So here's one that I love. And again, it speaks to, again, women empowering women, which is something we struggle with a lot in this generation. And that is women being able to get along. Right? So I would always, and on my list is to surround yourself and get support from like-minded women. That's something that I've been intentional about since 50-ish, maybe a little bit younger. If I see a woman who's already where I'm trying to go, and she's got a hold of herself, she knows who she is unapologetically. So giving a shout out to Angie and her group, Unapologetically Me on Facebook. If she knows who she is and she's operating that, let me sit at her feet and learn. Let me sit next to her and glean her narrative. How did you get there? How are you so secure in you? Married or single?
Right.
Those are the women I've chose to surround myself. So I can watch and study and observe and learn from them, and then not replicate them, but say, what can I grab from them, synthesize it, and put the Kim spin on it and make it work for me.
Right.
I want that freedom. I want that success. I want that peace that they have, that they don't have to walk around and explain themselves. Their life is an open book. You want to know, just watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the only people who are going to step up and ask you are the people who are intentional about, right, your success or wanting to be better, not to dismantle you, okay,
Right.
not to diminish you. And so surrounding yourself, and it doesn't have to be a whole bunch, where 2 or 3 are gathered.
That's
It could be a couple and say, but I like the way she moves in that area. I need to be in her space. If she'll just allow me to be in that space.
Right.
Let me tether to this wing over here and ride this out. And her, I like that she's figured that out. And every once in a while I could pick her brain. Sister, how did you come to that conclusion? How were you able to walk through that fire and not smell like smoke? Tell me.
Mm-hmm.
That feminine energy, that's creativity in itself. We got some folks sitting right here, including me, who are sitting in a life that we could never have pictured. And if you knew the footnotes of what we've been through,
Woo!
you would know that we shouldn't be sitting here tonight in our right mind,
At all.
looking like we looking purr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that part.
That part.
And that's creativity in itself. Because as it's written on paper, we should be rolled up in a ball somewhere, like I said, or dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Many haven't gone through the same circumstances. So that speaks to, again, at some point, we were able to listen to that intuition. At some point, we were able to press pause on the action and say, don't pay attention to me.
Yeah.
There's something in me worthwhile.
Yeah.
And you heard us all give praise to our beloved Pastor Emeritus, who planted a lot of those seeds. You need to know who you are and whose you are.
That's it.
Very early. I started hearing those messages at the tender age of 6. You can defer from it, raise a child in a way they should go when they're old. They won't depart far from it, is one of the translations. So even though I may have ignored it at some point, I was like, well, that's just that Bible stuff, but it don't mean nothing to me. I had to come back to it. No, you are a queen, not because I wear a t-shirt, not because even my maiden name is King, right? I'm royalty. To know that we are worthy and beautifully and wonderfully made.
That's
so
it.
a couple more. Along with that creativity is playing and being spontaneous. There's something to be said that even with those me times that we have some fun. We let our hair down. We stop doing that again as we mature and we get older and we take on responsibilities. I think there's so much of us that we know about ourselves as children that we allow life to unteach us. Little kids know. Think about little children you've been about. Lindsay, think about this with me. Little children know what they like and don't like.
Yes.
And they feel very comfortable in telling you, I ain't gonna eat that.
Yep.
I don't want to go. Somebody try to hug them. I don't like them.
Yep.
Right. If you want the truth, ask a kid.
But we silence that voice, don't we?
Yeah.
And some of us have had those voices silenced. So we begin to ignore our intuition. But a child knows. So what am I saying? When we go back to inviting play into our life and free flowing again, I'm having fun in the moment. You're learning yourself. I'm good at this. I'm strong at this, or I suck at this. I don't do that a lot. Or in order for me to do this, I need help. You know what game will teach you more about yourself than anything? Try playing some spades with some Black people. If you ain't know, now you'll know. Monopoly too. Monopoly will bring out the best and the worst that they brought us to God. Okay. But playing and being spontaneous, laughter balances, all of that balances your feminine energy. For a moment, you're able to suspend the outer world and be fully present in play. I used to teach a whole class on the theory of play. And it's interesting, the things that you learn when you're playing, things that you learn about others, socially, emotionally, and the things that you learn about yourself in the process of play. It is phenomenal. So some of that me time could actually be social time. I'm gonna go play by myself. Video games, I have a teacher that I work with. That's her outlet. It's gaming. We a lot of times think that's just, just men, but that's her outlet. She sits there and she plays, and it's a way to release aggression. It's a way for her to be distracted again from the responsibilities of life and just have fun. You flow in a game, don't you? You playing a video game, you gotta bob and weave as the game takes you through. There's some laughter. Laughter is medicine for the soul. Isn't that word? But it is. And look how lighthearted you are. Yeah. And it made me think about your, the visual that you have. You posted it in our group, but Angie talks about her reminder of keeping her heart as light as a feather.
I went and actually pulled it to show the women, if you don't mind. Because what I did in my tradition, we always say, we talk about the balance of the scales. And so on one side of the scale, I have a heart, a replica of a human heart. And on the other side, there's literally a feather. And so the point of this scale, you'll see that the heart and the feather are balanced. The heart, even though it's bigger and heavier and all, they're balanced on this scale. And so when I think of my balance, I'm big on visuals. My whole house is a visual. And I have scales with a heart and a feather. And it reminds me constantly of the importance of keeping my heart as light as this feather. I'm not going to let certain things weigh me down or make me bitter or have me worried or even have me sick, because this is my heart staying light as a feather is also keeping me physically healthy. It's keeping me emotionally healthy. It is keeping my mind from going off the deep end and in going into a space where it gets so heavy and I start drowning. These are things that are important. One of the things I teach my students, I have them all do what we call an optimal health wheel, a pie chart. What I tell them to do is list on that chart those things that you feel you need for you to have optimal health. What was interesting is I remember I had a student who gave me so much pushback on that. Her thing was, for her, she said for her to have optimal health, she had to be a part of an organization that was advocating for women who were in need, and they were doing this and they were doing that. And I said, but baby, What do you need for your health? And she was saying her doing advocacy was for her health. This is where she's constantly still giving. She's not thinking about her. When I give you that assignment, I'm telling you, like, 1 year, and that list changes
Yeah.
as you move.
Mhm.
But 1 year, my list for my optimal health, what did I need? I needed an acupuncturist. I needed an herbalist. I needed prayer. I needed a podiatrist. I needed a masseuse. I needed retreat. I needed quiet time. I needed a dentist. I needed a chef. I literally hired a chef because I was like, I can't even do the cooking. I need somebody to do the cooking for me.
Outsourcing.
Okay. And I wasn't going talking about fast food. No, come in here, fix the kind of food I need that I eat for my health. You know, I needed nature. My God, I still need nature. There was a point for the 4 years, 5 days a week, I was walking 6 miles a day, 5 days a week, 4
Mhm.
years, 6 miles. And it's like, oh my God, you want to talk about clearing your mind, slowing your mind down. I have issues with my brain racing too. I get out there in nature and I will go hiking, or I will go swimming, or I'll go sit and watch all them darn ducks and the turtles and everybody swimming around out there. It is something about being in nature. The oak trees talk, the pine trees talk,
Elements.
the
The
palm
elements.
trees talk,
Earth, wind.
all of it.
Fire.
They're all out there talking, and then somewhere along the way, the armadillo will come out and run across the road, and the armadillo talks, you know, and these are the things I remember living in the city, and you hear the birds sometimes, here mostly out in the suburbs and the boonies. I hear the birds every day now. And it is music to my ears to hear the children laugh. The children laugh, not worried about somebody shooting up the street.
Yes, yes, yes.
Not out there breaking bottles as a source of entertainment, but children literally riding their bikes, swinging in swings,
Playing.
outside, being children, laughing.
And we have to be a part of that. And we need to be a part of that.
And
That's
we
exactly
need that for ourselves. This is why it is so important to check in with yourself. Maybe you don't do the pie chart like I do, but create an optimal health list. What do you need today, this hour, this minute for your optimal health?
I think I'm gonna do a show on that, because it's really 8 different elements. It's 8 different ways, 8 different elements of wellness. Don't consider, like there's social wellness, and then there's physical wellness, financial wellness, occupational wellness. So there's so many different aspects of wellness that we need to look at, like I said, in our me time, in our reflection time, to figure out where we need to make some changes, and realizing that you have the power to make those changes. We do not have to be victims, right? And we don't have to have a man to save us. You don't even have to tap into this masculine energy, right, for that to happen. But walking in the fullness of your feminine energy, all of those things can be attained. And so that keeping your heart as light as a feather, I love that visual, and everybody's in a couple people in the chat are saying the same thing. That's going to happen through laughter. That's going to happen through rest, right? So Angelia, when you were talking about the TV, sometimes that's the recreational distraction that we need. I'm just gonna press pause and focus on the fantasy, focus on the drama. There's nothing wrong with that. That's gonna help you achieve that balance. Connecting with nature, you just said. So maybe you live in an urban environment, finding where those forest preserves are, finding, like we know here in Chicagoland, we have the beautiful lakefront. my girls and I, when we were going through a transition, we found a rock right off 51st Street. We named it Garrett Rock, and that was our place. And I still will go there from time to time when everything goes suckish and wrong in my life. I go to the rock. I ain't gonna go there, y'all. They gonna make me run. You ain't gonna make me
I feel
run.
a shout coming on. I feel a shout.
You ain't gonna make me. I ain't gonna do it.
Oh, I feel a shout,
But-
baby.
But we go to the rock. We got a rock. We named, for some. I sit on that rock, and by the time I get off that rock, everything's all right.
Mhm.
Everything is all right. Everything that I thought, it was too much.
Yeah.
And the wise, I go to that rock, look at that water, and like I said, you could see. Like you talking about the seagulls. You got armadillos down there. We don't have no armadillos in Chicago, but I see those seagulls and the pigeons. But you see the tide come in and the tide go out. You see boats get bigger and get smaller. And it makes you realize that in this whole universe, this little old me is just one part of it.
That's it.
And if there's a God,
My Lord.
however you see God, in your own image or not, if there's a God that put me in this whole great, big old beautiful world, created the ocean that holds up ships
My Lord.
and ocean liners.
Kim, don't you shout me here.
I'm
Don't
trying to
you
hold
shout me over
on.
there.
I'm trying to hold on. It's saying in my notes, land that holds up skyscrapers, then certainly whatever it is I'm carrying, God can help me carry. And I get up off that rock and I go back, flag me back in. I
Okay.
can return to life and keep going and see what the end is going to be.
Oh, yes.
So that's all feminine energy. Did you hear anything weak in anything we talked about tonight? I did not.
No.
No.
I did not. You better
That's
get you some.
Feminine energy is not weak.
It's not. And I said for the men who have watched or for the women who are going to share, men need their playtime. They
Mhm.
need their playtime to regroup. That's softness. That's feminine energy. They need that.
Mhm.
They need some me time. That me time could be them being solitary. And
Yeah.
I told you, I've only been in one relationship with one man who understood that. He was like, I just need to go be by myself. Like, I'm not good for anybody right now.
Right.
Not even for me. I just need to go put myself in time out. And sometimes he would think it was 2 days. Sometimes it was maybe 6, 7 hours. He'd be like, I'm back. Oh, dang. What happened? I just needed to press pause.
Yeah.
Angie said to use her words to check in with me.
Yeah.
So laughing and having fun, being spontaneous, that's regrouping.
Yeah.
Feminine energy, y'all. It's feminine energy, and there's nothing wrong with that. Surrounding yourself with supportive people. The part 3 that we're gonna end up doing is all about loving yourself. And the reason why I want to go to a part 3 on that is because that's one that we hear a lot, and that's probably the hardest one to do. So what does that mean to love yourself? It's not just as simple as looking in the mirror, girl, you fine. I don't care what they said. Or I had put a story in our group about a girl who her cousin rejected her for her wedding because she was fat. And the girl said that she embraced, she was not going to succumb to the body shaming. She still felt good about her. So she loved herself. That's a process.
Uh-huh.
So we got to unpack that. How are you able to trust, like what's on my list here, that you're actually able to be conscious of your femininity and then own and cherish your beauty by your own definition? How do you get to that? That's a process. Okay. Just like in my family, if it's anybody in my family watching, you all know it's true, even if you want to say it, that it's better to be lighter.
It is. It is.
You're pretty if you light. You're pretty if you're short. You're pretty if your body is somewhat in proportion to your height. Okay. If everything is where it's supposed to be, then you're beautiful. And if not, you ain't.
Yeah.
Okay. You smile too much. You don't smile enough. You shouldn't wear no makeup. You wear
Right.
too much makeup.
Makeup.
You can't wear no wig. What's wrong with wearing a wig? But you should
Right.
wear the color.
She
know.
brings your hair.
Need to wear loose clothes. You need to wear clothes that fit. You know, you walk too fast, you walk too slow. And so how do you negate that narrative and arrive at your own? So that's a big one. Walking in your feminine energy, defining your femininity. It's based in loving yourself. Once you find out who that self is.
Right. That part.
Once you find out who that self is, so we're going to spend some time there, probably in the new year, because next week we need to talk about the holidays. Folk, the holidays kicking people's ass. We need to talk about that, honestly. And that's single people, that's married people, holidays, folks are suffering. So that's what I'll be talking about next Friday night. And then in January, no, right before New Year's, we'll go back to the loving yourself. So if you all are available, we will do that. So in the next week, even as you're getting ready for Christmas, let your creativity flow. Maybe you need to wrap a present instead of throwing it in a bag. I don't know. But let your creativity flow. Find some fun. Go ice skating or something. There's so many wonderful things to do in the winter. Go have some fun. Go laugh. Find a comedy show. Get around some fun people who know how to let their hair down. Or if they don't have any hair, take their hat off. I mean, I don't even know. But have some fun. Find a way to press pause. Create some me time. Make an appointment with yourself. Like I said there earlier, I would put that on my phone with reminders. So I could not schedule anything. It would come up on my calendar as busy. So if somebody wanted to meet with me, I'm sorry, I already have an appointment at that time with my pillow. They didn't need to know. They didn't need to know. But for me, it kept me being honest to Kim, right? And loyal to Kim.
Yeah.
Do things that make you feel grounded. That's a lot of what Angie was talking about, that visiting the ocean and kind of sitting still. And then, allowing your intuition to guide you more. Your inner girl is telling you. People talk about women's intuition. Mm-hmm. We've heard that that's a real thing.
It's
and
a real thing.
Valued. It is something to be valued. If people, look, if they could find a way to put that in a jar and sell it, somebody would be a trillionaire, billionaire. Ooh. So if you possess that, you better value it and tap into it and use it. It is not to your demise. So if you're loving yourself is part of having that me time, it is. It's almost like, so which came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, do you find out how to love yourself in the me time, or do you have to love yourself to have the me time? And I think it's different for each person, but I would like to encourage you to try it this week, even in the hustle and the bustle of the holiday season. Start with 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Start with 5. Some people have to start with 5. We talk about reflection. Go sit down somewhere and relax your nerves and not do anything.
Yes,
5 or 15 minutes is hard to do.
Here's something to think about, though. If you don't want to spend time with you, God expect somebody else will spend time with you.
Oh, come on now.
Listen,
I'm just saying, if you don't love you, then how do you expect somebody else to love you?
Honestly, and you took me to the end, and you
have to start there. You got to.
Have to.
And you got to be okay. When you love yourself, you got to be okay with somebody else not liking that. You got to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. Because guess what? When you find yourself, it's going to be some people that ain't going to like you because you found yourself.
It's going to be a whole lot. Especially if that means some no's are going to be involved.
That right there. Because
usually that's where the no's
manipulate you no more. They can't ask you to do everything and you're going to show up. They can't control you like they was controlling you before because you're like, no.
Or you don't need them in the same way. And there's a certain level of independence that comes with knowing yourself. There's a certain amount of independence that comes with loving yourself. And it doesn't mean that you can't be in a relationship with others, but it does mean that, like I said, you maintain your individuality.
Right.
And we choose how we love. Right. So it's not to the point of draining ourselves.
Right.
And I think a lot of times that's how we have defined love. Even though love is sacrificial, doesn't have to you to a negative in your love tank.
No.
You're going to give some, but you don't have to give all. You don't have to require to
Exactly.
give all. But
Exactly.
if you not talk to yourself, that's going to happen. That's
Right.
going to happen. Dog, you made me lose the last piece because you were saying that you were going right there. And it was,
But if you don't
oh
love
my
yourself,
God.
then how you expect somebody else to love you? If you can't spend
There it
time with yourself,
Right.
how do you
Right.
expect
So-
somebody else to spend time with you?
So here's the thing. Here's the last piece about this feminine energy that I've seen mistaught on social media, which was what made me want to do this series anyway. It's not a matter of you doing this. It's a matter of being this that's going to attract the right people in your life. And by
Right.
attracting the right people, I don't mean, again, just a romantic partner, but friendships and business, etc.
Right.
What is inside of you is what's going to emanate outside of you.
Right.
It's the softness, it's the flexibility, it's the knowingness of yourself, it's the assurity of that. All of that brings people into that space. And the self-awareness, going back to Angie's point earlier, is what's going to help you choose who gets to stay.
Yes.
So a lot of times people say, well, you attract who you are. I disagree with that. I think when you have the light that we're saying feminine energy exudes, you're going to attract everybody that needs healing. You're going to attract everybody that's attracted to the light.
That's
But
right.
once that self-awareness kicks in, you will know who gets to stay and bask in the glory and who needs to be shown the exit ramp and going about their
Right.
business.
Mhm.
That's the difference. And so the attracting the right mate, the attracting the right business partners comes through that inner work. It's
That's
not
right.
anything you gotta activate and manipulate and all of that.
Right.
That you're saying out here on it's about being and it's about developing. So I want to thank you all for your time. Those of you, I want to thank Angela Oyafumike, who came 2 weeks now and shared her expertise as a priestess and an ordained minister. She gave us a little bit of everything. And then my dear friend Angelia McCrary Parker, also known as the wife of Terry Parker, who gave her very important perspective. And I'm Dr. Kim, your relationship renovator. I help you get it together, keep it together. You can find me on Facebook, Kimberly A. King. You can also find me on Facebook on my business page, The Complete Suite LLC, where I offer life coaching, relationship coaching, and career coaching for those who need it. Hit me up there and inbox me. And then you're also welcome, if you're a girl, to join my group on Facebook, Love and Life According to Dr. Kim, where we talk about everything concerning life, love, and relationships 24/7. It's the party that never stops. And so if you want to come back here next Friday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be talking about what the lonely do at Christmas. The married lonely and the single lonely. See, everybody sings that emotion song. They think it's just the single people. It's the married folks hate to see Christmas coming next week. We're going to talk about it next Friday night. And I'll be on vacation too. So I think we're going to make a charcuterie board next week for Friday Night Live. We're going to set it out. Yes, I know. And I think I'm going to make some more coquito. It's going to be on and cracking. So I will see you here next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Thank you for your attention. Love you to life. Good night.